with you. This is a really chill, sequenced practice that is all about focusing on you and how you feel. Think less about what you're going to look like in each pose. Think less about how deep you think you're going to go. And think more about how deep can I go with my breath? How quiet can I get with my mind? And how curious can I get about how I'm feeling as I transition through this practice? That's kind of what the theme is for it. So less about the aesthetics, more about the feeling and the sensations in your body. You will definitely need a couple of blocks for practice. If you like to sit on a bolster or rolled up blankets or towels, you can certainly grab that, or even sitting up on a block works too. And other than that, you really don't need anything else for your practice. But of course, that breath is going to be the most important part of it. So we're going to just start by sitting in just a cross-legged, easy position. Now, I am going to recommend that you sit on something. So that might be a bolster, block, blankets, just anything that is going to elevate you a little bit, create a little more comfort for not only your hips, but also your knees. Your hands can rest in your lap, and you're going to close your eyes down once you settle into your seat. And if you're wearing glasses, I invite you to take them off. Just take away that distraction, that physical distraction on your face. And as you root down through your seat, I want you to anchor in through there, like you're plugging your sit bones down into the earth. And from that, finding a really long spine. Shoulders drawn down away from the ears, elbows relaxed and soft as your hands rest on your lap. Relax the features of your face. Maybe even give a little more attention to space between upper and lower molars inside the mouth. And soften the tongue. And give yourself a moment to acknowledge the transition from wherever you were to being right here, right now for the next 60 minutes. You might scan your body, just noticing what you're showing up with. Maybe there's some areas that feel a little tender or sensitive. Maybe there's some spots that already feel comfortable for you, or even spacious. Without trying to judge what you feel in your body, see if you can be a curious observer of it, so that as you start to practice and you notice how things are shifting, maybe you can come back to one area of your body where you felt something at one point that is now completely different. Slowly allow your breath to deepen, finding an inhale for a count of 3 and an exhale for a count of 5, all through the nose. Letting it be an effortless breath. Let it be soft. Let the breath begin to anchor you here into the present. And as you continue this breath pattern, maybe you take a moment to notice one thing that you may want to bring into your practice today. Maybe for some of you, it will be the focus on the breath. For others, it might be a physical sensation in your body that you feel begins to shift, or maybe even a heavy energy that you're holding into that you're now noticing is slowly releasing. Take a couple of more of these deep breaths, inhaling for 3, exhaling for 5. And as you take your next inhale, slowly begin to open the eyes. And whatever you might be sitting on, you can release that out to the side and place your feet in front of you, about hip width apart, hands back behind you for just a moment. Just going to windshield wiper the knees a little bit to create just a little bit of more fluid energy through the joints. And then you can even take a moment, extend the legs out, give them a little bit of a shake. Move some stale energy, especially if you've been sitting a lot today. And then I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see a little bit better. We're going to start in deer pose. So super gentle, super easy. You just bring your right leg out on an angle for a moment and tuck your left foot to the inside of your inner thigh, kind of making like an L-shaped position. And then you're going to take your back front knee and bend it backwards. And maybe for some of you, you're going to create another kind of L shape. Maybe your knee might be tucked in really close. It's going to depend on how your hips and your knees feel, okay? One is not better than the other. I just want you to find what feels good in your body. Maybe it's kind of halfway. Okay? If you want to tuck that back foot in, as opposed to having it straight out, you can certainly do that as well. Think about leaning into your left hip and letting your right sit bone rise. So it's literally hanging off the mat. Now, this is where your blocks might be quite handy. Depending on how you're feeling, maybe you might just slide those blocks in front of you on a higher level, hands resting onto them, and maybe you might lean a little bit. Some of you might explore maybe a little bit deeper. Maybe you might come down to forearms. Maybe your blocks might come to a lowest level. Maybe you might come all the way down, forehead to stacked hands. I just want you to find what you feel works best in your body. Do keep a flex in your left foot so that you're stabilizing your knee joint and your hip. And then allow your shoulders to melt away from your ears. Think of broadening your upper back like you're opening up a book. And start to breathe some space along your back, along your upper back, especially along the length of the spine. And soften your jaw. Finding a breath pattern that feels good for you and that feels intuitive. Whenever a thought comes up, or maybe there's a noise that you hear, or maybe it's something you feel in your body, see if you can quickly acknowledge it so that you can let it go and you can start to come back to your breath. Okay? I personally love to take a pause between my inhale and my exhale. So if that feels welcoming in your body, you can certainly inhale for 3, maybe 4, or maybe 5. And then you can slowly pause, maybe for 2 breaths, maybe even 3. And then find a long, deep exhale where it feels so effortless. You barely even notice. Relax in between your fingers. Can you create a little bit more space between your upper and lower molars? And start to feel the expanded breath out through your rib cage, just like you're playing an accordion. Where can you breathe a little bit more space into? What area of your body is speaking to you right now? Take one more full deep breath. If it's possible for you to keep your eyes closed, from wherever you are, slowly start to rise up. And just be mindful of the blocks that are in front of you. Maybe you just slide them over to the side for a moment. Lean over onto your left side and very carefully take that right leg from behind, up and around. And you might just extend your legs out for a moment. You might find a cross-legged position, just somewhere kind of neutral where you can take a moment to let your body rebound. Just allow the body to reset. Give it a couple of moments. Continue the long, slow, deep breaths. you're sitting cross-legged, you might take your legs out in front of you for a moment. Find the left leg to extend out a little bit on an angle, so you can draw that right foot in, kind of create that L-shaped position, and then carefully start to bend the left leg back and find your version of deer pose here. Maybe the knees in closer. Maybe the back knee is open up more. Lean into your right sit bone and let the left sit bone lift up. And then lengthen up through your spine. And then you decide just how deep do I want to fold? Remembering it isn't about what it looks like. It's about how do you feel wherever it is that you land. Once you settle in, maybe you adjust for a moment. The fidgeting stops. The stillness begins. And you start to focus back into the breath, allowing it to weave in and out through the nose at a pace that really resonates with you. Where can you soften into a little more? Maybe there's that one spot in your body that's really inviting more space towards it. The invitation to pause between your breaths is there for you. Think continuous expansion, minimal contraction. Let your shoulders get a little heavier. as they draw themselves away from the ears. Begin one more full round of breath. Try not to rush the pace of that breath. And then again, maybe eyes stay closed as you slowly lengthen from where you were. Very carefully taking that left leg that was behind around. And maybe you're sitting cross-legged again. Maybe there's that lengthening of the legs out in front of you. Take a moment and let the body rebound. So important to let the body reset. It's not just a physical reset. There is a mental reset, potentially an emotional reset, definitely an energetic reset. But even the physical, the fascial layers in the body need a moment to acknowledge a new shape. And if something else was released, your mind needs a moment to process that. Now, if you are sitting cross-legged, do take a moment to extend the legs out. Just give them a little bit of a shake, a little bit of movement. And then we're going to be heading down to the floor, to the mat for the rest of our practice. So I invite you to bring your blocks up closest to the top of your mat. And then you're going to make your way down onto your back. Start by having your knees bent. Take the feet wide and let the knees kind of touch towards one another. You'll draw the shoulder blades apart so your upper back is nice and flat. And let your arms rest wherever it's comfortable. And taking a moment to let your body feel the support that's underneath that. And now start to heel to your feet together until knees and feet are side by side. Give the knees a hug into the chest. And keep this pretty loose so that your knees are not super drawn in towards your belly, but there's a lot of space between the belly and the thighs, and your tailbone is lengthened towards the back of your mat. You're going to start to find a gentle little rock here from side to side. I want you to think of rolling from side to side, but also as if you're rolling the whole back body, like from the tailbone right to the back of the head. And then as you make your way back towards the center, pause here for a moment. Take one of your blocks on the lowest setting and place it underneath the base of your head. This is just so you have a little bit of upper body support. From here, we're going to move into Apanasana. So with Apanasana, your hands are either going to rest maybe on your shins or the top of your knees, or maybe even tucked underneath onto your hamstrings. Just find whatever position for your hands that keeps your arms relatively relaxed, okay? You're going to open your knees and open them as wide as it feels comfortable for you. Okay, so think of like tadpole or wide knee child's pose, but you're flipped over onto your back. Your toes might stay together. Your toes might separate. Either way, it's all good. Now I want you to think of lengthening the tailbone. So your whole back body is grounded. And you might choose to just be still here. You might choose to rock for a little bit of time until it feels right in your body to become still. Choose what is speaking to you. What does your body need? Allow for enough space in the belly area for full, long, deep breaths. Keep the hinge of your jaw relaxed. As well as the rest of your face. Try to maintain at least some degree of a bend through your elbows. Now, if you've been wearing shoes all day, it might feel good to circle out your ankles for a little bit. It might even feel good to wiggle out your toes, or even flex and point your feet for a little bit. So we're about halfway through. We have another couple of minutes here. You might choose to stay exactly as you are. If you would like to go a little deeper, you might explore Happy Baby. So from here, you would bring your hands to the inside of your thighs, and you would take a hold of either your ankles or maybe the outside of your feet, but make sure your hands and your arms are on the inside of your legs. From here, your feet will start to come up as if you're trying to stamp the ceiling with them, as your knees come down to either side of your hips. Now, if you can't reach the feet comfortably, slide your hands to your ankles, okay? And if you find that this just doesn't work, just come back to where we were, that sort of reclined baby tadpole. Now, in Happy Baby, you might find it good to rock. That might feel good for your body. Sometimes some people like to bend one knee and straighten the opposite leg, kind of just zigzag back and forth. The option is there for you to also be still. Again, it's not about what it looks like. It's not even about how deep you go. It's about how do you feel here? Can you be calm? Can you be composed? Can you be relaxed? Can you maybe even start to find a slightly longer exhale than where you were before? Take one more full deep breath in through the nose, maybe out through an open mouth, letting it go. Eventually, the feet are going to come much closer together. The hands will come to the outside of the knees. You'll gently draw the knees together. The feet will come down to the mat. And as your feet ground, you might take the block from underneath the base of your head out of the way. And the option is there for you to take a moment and extend the legs out if that feels comfortable. Otherwise, just keep your knees bent, your feet grounded. Continue long, slow, deep breaths. Feeling the echo of release traveling through your body. Legs are fully extended. Begin to bend your knees again, walking your feet onto the mat. And if you're creaking your knees just like I am, that's okay. And we're going to move into supported bridge from here. So we're going to lengthen out the front of the hips now. So grabbing one of your blocks is either going to be at the lowest base level or the second level. You're going to lift your hips up, tuck that block underneath, let it land on the sacrum. And then depending on how your back feels, if it's feeling a little tender, especially after that last pose, you might just keep your feet wide but grounded and your knees bent. But you might just find a little lengthening of the legs, just enough that it's still supporting your back, but there's a little bit of space there in the front of those hip flexors. For some of you, you might start to extend the legs all the way out. I want you to find what feels best for your back. And let your arms space out away from your body. Draw your shoulder blades apart. So your upper back is nice and flat. And can you really let your body relax here? You're fully supported. Breathe some space into the front of your hips, all the way up to the tip of your collarbones. And let your belly relax. Even though you're breathing in deeply, can you soften in there? We hold so much tension in our belly. So breathe some space into that area and let it go. Legs are fully extended out. One at a time, start to bend the knees, eventually walking the feet onto the mat. And we're going to keep the block there, but we're going to start to take the legs up into the air into waterfall. Now, personally for me, as I take the legs up, sometimes I need to readjust my block to be just a couple of inches up higher. Not that it's digging into my back, but just slightly higher up to create a little bit more support. Now your legs don't have to be fully extended. You might just keep your knees bent and let your feet kind of dangle. Or you might kind of find somewhere midway. I love to move my feet around for a few moments here, circling out my ankles, pointing and flexing my toes. Sometimes I even like to open and close the legs a little bit before I find complete stillness. Feel free to also take your arms up into the air as well. Maybe circle out your wrists, wiggle out those fingers, especially if you've been using your hands a lot today. Just allow the energy to flow in a different direction. Whatever heaviness that you might be holding in the lower half of your body, think of it draining out your feet through your abdominal area, up past your chest, all the way out through the crown of your head. At any point, feel free to drop the feet back down onto the mat and stay in a supported bridge position. We'll be here for about another minute. If your arms are in the air, slowly begin to drape them back down so they land on either side of your hips. And then the knees will start to bend. Eventually the feet will land onto the mat. You'll lift your pelvis up, slide that block out, lower down one vertebra at a time. Eventually, as your tailbone lands, just let your knees touch, take your feet wide, come into constructed rest. Let your spine settle here. Now let the knees open and take the feet to the edges of your mat. You're going to start to windshield wiper the legs slowly from one side to the other. Really slow. Almost as if it's so slow that you're watching it in slow motion. Like you would a set of windshield wipers. And then the next time that your knees start to fall towards the left, you're pausing there. We're coming into reclined windshield wiper. Now, personally, I like to use the blocks. I like to wedge them underneath the base of my knees. You can certainly not use them if you don't feel like you need them. I just find them a little bit more supportive, especially if you're tight in your inner thighs. And then if you're using the blocks, you've got them in the right spot, and everything feels comfortable, then you're going to slowly bring your arms up into a goalpost position. And if that doesn't work, just take the arms straight out from the shoulders. And then settling in, finding your breath again. Nice long breath in. And as you exhale, gently let the knees begin to come back up to center. And then you'll pause there as the knees touch. The feet will still stay wide. And take 2 deep breaths here. Then open the knees back up. Start to windshield wiper the legs about 2 to 3 times on each side. And then eventually, as the knees will fall to the right this evening, you're going to land there. Support your body as you need to. reposition your arms somewhere where it feels really comfortable. Unhinge your jaw, soften your face, let your eyes drift back into their sockets. Take 3 more full deep breaths without rushing. And then when you're ready, the knees will come back up to center. And you'll slowly start to shift into your final pose, coming into Shavasana, setting that up so that it is effortless, that it is comfortable. Maybe you cover yourself up with a blanket or place an eye pillow over your eyes. Let yourself completely go here. Please take all the time that you need here to complete your practice. As always, there is never any rush. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, and may you sleep well. Namaste.